to Reality Bytes Radio on the 27th of July 2015, and we're going to start off tonight with, or today, this afternoon, whatever time it is where you are, with how we're all being treated like children. We talked about this with Alan Watt recently on the new normals, and this was one of them. Everybody being treated like a perpetual child. But now they want to tell us what time we have to go to bed. This is the Telegraph today, 27th July. Sleep deprivation is as bad as smoking. People who rise too early or get by on too little sleep are just as bad as smokers and can function as poorly as drunks, says leading neuroscientist as he urges the country to get back to bed. People who boast about getting by on less than 5 hours sleep should be shunned like smokers because of the harm which can be caused by short sleeping, a leading professor has said. Well, maybe this guy wants to go to bed and just stop writing garbage like this. Professor Russell Foster, no relation I can assure you, a neuroscientist from the University of Oxford, said lack of sleep is damaging the health of the nation, with too many early risers trying to function with brain skills so damaged they could be drunk. Now, it always amazed me that you could see these politicians or prime ministers, whatever they want to call themselves, running all over the world, and they seem to be awake 24/7. So maybe that's why they make bad decisions, or not. The comments follow studies which suggest that working night shifts speeds up the ageing process and is linked to increasing risks of cancer, heart disease and type 2 diabetes. Professor Foster, director of the Sleep and Circadian Neuroscience Institute, called for a change in attitudes towards getting an early night. So let's all go to bed, children, and do as you're told. Lights out, Maybe they're getting used to curfews and things like that, and it'll be lights out by 10 o'clock kind of thing. Or maybe it's just a green policy. There certainly is a culture of, well, I only had 5 hours of sleep last night, how fantastic am I, he said. In fact, we should be looking down on those sort of things. In the same way that we frown upon smoking, I think we should start to frown upon not taking our sleep seriously. The neuroscientist raised concern that sleep deprivation could cause risks not just in jobs such as healthcare and transport, where dangers were obvious, but also could damage the quality of crucial decisions. Well, according to him, it makes you sick, so I guess there'll be plenty of jobs in healthcare for people that don't sleep too much. But it goes on with this nonsense. We see this too much with really senior people, he said. Lack of sleep damages a whole host of skills. Empathy, processing information, ability to handle people, but right at the top of the chain you get overly impulsive, impaired thinking because of this problem. That sounds like a politician, doesn't it? Look at banking. Look at the recent decisions about the Greek crisis, he said. We see major discussions going on through the night which have had a massive impact, and decisions are being made when skills are very impaired. Now, they're all probably sitting around drinking champagne cocktails and thinking what a fantastic job we've done screwing grease into the ground, into the gutter. He said many of those who rise before dawn were unaware of just how badly it could affect the functioning of their brain. At 4 o'clock in the morning, our ability to process information is similar to the amount of alcohol that would make us legally drunk. As bad as if we had a few whiskies or beers, he said. Professor Foster said the evidence about the increased health risks posed by night shifts was compelling. Maybe they're going to bring out some laws or something saying that if you don't get 8 hours of sleep a day, you're going to get a fine or something like that. Or jailed or tasered or something to make you go to sleep. The assumption has always been that you adapt to the night shift, that your body clock will map on to the demands of working at night. The really extraordinary findings across a whole range of different studies are that you don't adapt, he said, citing research linking night working to a host of diseases. Well, I've known myself that night shift is bad for your health. It's just not natural to be up at night time. You're supposed to go to bed when it gets dark. But he said overall lack of rest was enough to cause lack of attention, accidental microsleeps, such as dropping off the wheel, as well as reduced ability to process thoughts. Well, dropping off at the wheel is something that happens when you drive long distances and you see the same thing over and over again. Tiredness has got something to do with it, but there's a lot more to it than that. So he's just using that as a very poor example. I guess he's not getting much sleep. Last year, French research showed the brains of workers who had done night shifts for about 10 years had aged by an extra 6.5 years. Those taking part in a study by the University of Toulouse found that they had lower scores for memory, processing speed and overall brain function than those working normal office hours. Lack of sleep has been linked with factors such as disrupted metabolism and raised levels of the stress hormone cortisol, all of which may lead to high blood pressure and increased stroke risk. Maybes. All speculation. In 2010, a major study found that people who slept for less than 6 hours each night were 12% more likely to die prematurely before the age of 65 than those who slept the recommended 6 to 8 hours a night. The team from the University of Warwick and Frederico II University Medical School in Naples analysed 16 studies involving a total of 1.3 million people. But sleeping too much has also been linked with ill health and increased risk of early death. So you can't win, can you? Studies have found that sleep makes it easier to retrieve nuggets of information that may have got lost in the corner of our brain. Since when did your brain have a corner? In 2 situations where subjects forgot information over the course of 12 hours of being awake, after a night's sleep they were about twice as likely to be able to remember it. A University of Exeter study found. Well, twice as likely as what? Sleep habits of those at the top. As Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher famously slept for just 4 hours a night during the week, though she took regular daytime naps. Well, there you go. There's a moron who made a lot of bad decisions, but I guess she was well paid to do that. When asked how many hours sleep people need, Napoleon Bonaparte is said to have replied, 6 for a man, 7 for a woman, 8 for a fool. And he just went on to slaughter a lot of people. US President Barack Obama is understood to only sleep for 6 hours a night. Again, more bad decisions, eh? Business magnate Donald Trump boasts just 3 to 4 hours. Winston Churchill, 4 hours. Albert Einstein, 10 hours. There you go, somebody got it right. Bill Gates needs 7 hours of sleep to stay sharp, so that they can bring in policies to murder lots of people in Africa and everywhere else with these vaccines, I guess. Stay sharp at the point of a needle. But it goes on. Now we've got to stop eating meat. We all need to stop eating meat, and this is why. If even Alex Proud, a half-German meat lover, thinks it's time to embrace vegetarianism, perhaps we all should. I'm thinking of becoming a vegetarian, and I blame Professor Stephen Hawking. It didn't do him much good, did it? A bit of a leap, I know, but bear with me. Last week it was announced that the Russian technology billionaire Yuri Milner was stumping up $100 million to search for extraterrestrial life, and that Professor Hawking was on board. Good luck with that. Go science. However, Professor Hawking has long had grave concerns about actually finding intelligent life. The gist of his thinking is that aliens who are much more advanced than us might see us as no more valuable than we see bacteria. So here we are, we're all just bacteria. A plague on the earth. Does that ring a bell? Club of Rome? For what very little it's worth, I disagree slightly with Professor Hawking here. With a touch of anthropocentric pride or hubris, I imagine that our new galactic overlords might view us as we view farm animals. Pigs, if they were feeding generous, chickens if they weren't. But of course, George Orwell's famous for saying that some pigs are more equal than others. Eh? The trouble is, this thought won't go away, not least because exobiology is pretty hot at the moment. In our solar system, we've discovered oceans beneath the ice of Europa and Enceladus, and possibly on Pluto and Ceres, where life could exist. There is now a very good chance that alien life will be found in the next decade or so. Nowadays, the bookies will only give you odds of 100 to 1 of ET being discovered in any given year, whereas 10 years ago, you'd have got 1,000 to 1 or better. Now, there's 4 paragraphs I've just read, and it's supposed to be about not eating meat, but it's all into aliens and everything, eh? And it's getting more and more likely. It's 10 times more likely than it was 10 years ago that the spacemen are coming to get us, and they'll view us as animals and bacteria. So I guess they'll just wipe us out. To be fair, the denizens of these nearby worlds are likely to be fishy and should have more to fear from us than we do from them. But it's the billion. Well, I'll tell you what. If they can get here, I think we'd be pretty frightened, wouldn't you? But it's the billions of other potentially habitable worlds in the Milky Way that I'm concerned about. Worlds like current Planet of the Month Kepler 452b, aka Earth 2.0, which has 1.5 billion year head start on us. I mean, can you imagine what we could do in 1.5 billion years? We'd probably have an app that was like Uber for faster than light travel. Anyway, this constant bombardment of alien life teasers means it's hard to get the idea of a shimmering green alien stepping out of its spaceship to size me up like a butcher might a cow out of my head. And the natural corollary, I could never say that word, corollary to this is, Christ, we treat farm animals badly. So perhaps when our galactic overlords rock up, they'll look at the way we treat pigs and think, savages, before chucking us all in the slow oven to make a delicious dish of pulled person. All of this has forced me to take a long, hard look at my own meaty diet, and slowly I'm coming round to the idea that the enormous piles of beautifully browned sausages, the perfectly grilled steaks, the crisp, delicious bacon, and the rest of the mixed grill that comprises at least 50% of my diet may be just a little bit wrong. So here he is, he's using aliens as an excuse to go vegetarian. I mean, what garbage, eh? This has not been an easy journey for me to make. I'm half German. I used to play rugby. I am 6'2". I am designed to run on heavy fuel, and yet I can't shake this thought. It's like I have a little winged pig on my shoulder whispering, if you eat a variety of pulses, you need never turn another of my friends into a sausage. So over the last year, I've been looking at meat, reading about meat, watching meat documentaries, and lurking in online meat forums. I can't say it's made me feel any better. Probably not. You sound like you lead a very boring life. I keep stumbling across books ranging from Donald Griffin's The Question of Animal Awareness to Carl Sarfin's Beyond Words, What Animals Think and Feel. It seems abundantly clear to me that animals feel as we do and suffer as we do. Crows use tools, whales have culture, pigs can learn, and cows interact socially. Moreover, the difference between us and the animals is one of degree, not type. Christianity teaches us we are apart from the animals, but these days only the most deluded zealot could believe we are anything other than very clever monkeys. Well, I must be a deluded zealot, and I'm quite happy to eat meat and be a deluded zealot. Once you take this on board, factory farming becomes pretty much unconscionable. It's disgusting for the animals. Well, I agree with that, but there's no need for that either. From the mutilation and the crowding to the lazy cruelty and artificially accelerated growth. And it's disgusting for the environment. 10,000 slurry ponds can't be wrong. It's even disgusting for human health because life's going to be a lot more interesting when antibiotics stop working. So here he is. He thinks it's going to be interesting when antibiotics stop working. Well, we've got news for you, mate. They already have. And a lot of people are going to die because of it. Indeed, the only way you can eat factory farmed meat is to not think about it or not to care. So you wonder, could organic high welfare farming be our get out of jail free card? Well, it's better, sort of, but even so, you still keep thinking feeling beings in some sort of captivity in order, Jesus, grammar, this is terrible, captivity in order to turn them into nuggets and burgers. Besides, organic food is expensive. Well, there's no need for it to be expensive. It should be a lot cheaper because you're not using all those pesticides on them. But hey, it's a gimmick, isn't it? And organic food, there's proper food and there's garbage food, and most of the stuff on the supermarket shelves is garbage. I don't even agree with the label organic. There's food you should eat and there's food you shouldn't. Organic food is expensive, and while I can afford it, he says, I loathe to advocate Farrow and Ball solutions to people on Dulux budgets. So there you go. It's not for the trash, is it? It's not for the poor people. It's only for the likes of him, who gets well paid to write this garbage. In the end, though, free range is no real solution. By some environmental metrics, free range is actually worse than factory farming. And while I get the argument that many upland areas of the UK are suitable only for grazing, so they either produce meat or nothing at all, were we to make everything free range, there wouldn't be enough land in the world. Bullshit. Add this to the fact that half the world's wild animals have disappeared in the last 40 years, and you can't start to see why middle-class herds of organic cows roaming free in fields from Bowden catalogues just can't work for everyone. No, just for the likes of Prince Charles, who's got his private farms and all his organic beef, and all these vegetables grown under polythene with guys in hazmat suits and well water and all the rest of it. Those guys are okay. It's for them, isn't it? I've got a friend of mine, I've probably mentioned this before, who worked on an organic beef farm, and I think there was about 60 head of cattle on that farm, and every one of them went to the House of Lords, and the public wasn't allowed to buy it. I'll be coming on to that later as well. What does work for everyone, though, is not eating meat. It's basic maths. Estimates vary, but it takes around 7 kilos of grain to make 1 kilo of beef. Well, try eating 7 kilos of grain instead of 1 kilo of beef. You'll have a hard job. Pigs are about 4 to 1 and relatively thrifty. I think they mean thrifty. Chickens are around 2 to 1. Then there's the vast water consumption. 15,415 litres for a kilo of beef, some of which goes into growing the feed. Well, it falls from the sky, so I don't know what you're worried about there. And the CO2 emissions, oh dear, here we go, that old nugget, eh? 27 kilograms for a kilo of beef. 27 kilograms of gas, eh? Which rises, so it's lighter than air, so I don't know how to actually weigh it. I'd like to see the scale with that, 27 kilos of gas on it. If however humans were to eat the kilo of grain themselves, that would be that. A kilo of lentils creates only 0.9 kilograms of CO2. Well, they'll probably complain about the lentils causing methane at the other end here. Along with not flying and driving, going vegetarian is one of the very best things you can do for the earth. So there you go. Give up flying, give up driving, go vegetarian, and this guy will be happy with you. Anyway, I know all this. You probably know all this. No, I don't. Well, I might think you know it all, or your Guardian readers or whoever, whatever crap paper this was in, Telegraph. You might believe you know it, but you obviously know nothing. We are meat eaters, in case you hadn't noticed. We've been here for a long, long time, and I guarantee. Well, I've never seen a healthy vegetarian. Put it that way. I've never seen a healthy vegetarian, unless they're doing supplements and all the rest of it to make to replace the meat and the stuff they get out of it. But anyway, it goes on and on and on and on with this crap. But Tesco now wants to decide what you eat. Again, this is the Telegraph, July 27th. Tesco to ban children's sugary drinks from its stores. Well, adults drink those drinks as well, so you ain't getting them either. But when they say sugary drinks, they're talking about drinks with sugar in them. I guess everything's just going to have aspartame. It nearly already does, but I guess everything will have aspartame now. You won't be able to get by anything without it. And the kids will still keep drinking it, of course. Supermarket giant Tesco has revealed plans to axe added sugar drinks, which they say is a bid to stem rates of childhood obesity. Well, they want to take all the GM food off the shelves. That might help. And it's full of it. Tesco's revealed plans to axe drinks with added sugar from their stores in the hope that it will cut down on childhood obesity. Some of the drinks on the list are children's favourites and bestsellers, including certain products from Capri Sun, Ribena and Rubicon. These will be replaced with branded and Tesco's own brand no added sugar alternatives from the beginning of September as children return to school after the summer holidays. This news comes after Tesco's announcement in May that it aimed to move towards improving the healthiness of its own label range as well as reducing the amount of sugar in its range of soft drinks. Tesco's soft drinks buying manager David Beardmore told Trade magazine The Grocer, "This is part of our 10-point plan against obesity, and we have decided that from September we will only sell no added sugar drinks in the kids' juice category. Most of the suppliers are supportive of it and understand what we are doing." Yeah, I'm sure they do. Indeed, Tesco seems to be leading the way in the clampdown on sugar, and their actions have been praised and welcomed by health campaigners, including Professor Graham McGregor, chairman of Action on Sugar, who told The Grocer that other supermarket chains should follow suit. Well, you need sugar. You actually need sugar. Last year, it's the same as this ban on salt and all the rest of it. You need salt. So again, if these guys are telling me I can't have sugar, I'm going to have more of it. Last year, Tesco also banned chocolate and sweets from being sold at its checkouts. However, some stores were seen replacing them with equally unhealthy snacks such as salty crisps. While Tesco have good intentions, where does this that'll be a first, wouldn't it? Where does this leave us with regards to consumer choice? Many people are wary of artificial sweeteners used in place of sugar in diet drinks and are likely to be unhappy if this is the only option they have in Tesco stores from September. What do you think? Well, I know what I think, but I ain't going to say it here. But here's police officers now. The Independent, July 27th again. Police to make officers wear beard nets. Yep, you heard right, and it's not April the 1st. If a police officer's got a beard, he's got to wear a net on it. It's akin to the ones that they wear in cafeterias and stuff when they're serving food, I guess. Hirsute Gloucestershire policemen could soon be made to wear beard nets or go clean-shaven under new dress code rules. The new uniform policy also encourages officers to cover visible tattoos and urges female police officers to wear minimal makeup. The new requirements appear to have sparked some complaints among the officers. An article about the new regulation on the Times website quotes a source as telling the paper, "Some of the female PCs have been wearing so much bronzer that they look like the Tango Man, but the blokes will just look silly walking around with a big net on their face, and so would a female PC with a beard, I guess." So maybe they should just tackle that issue. I've seen a few of them. While the new requirements appear to be starkly worded, when contacted, Gloucestershire Constabulary insisted a common sense approach would be adopted. like beard nets, that's a common sense approach, eh? A statement said the policy is intended to provide guidance to managers and staff. It does not replace the need for discussion with the individuals concerned. Britain's regional police forces are each subject to their own dress codes. Well, not in Scotland, because there's only one police force there. In London, the Metropolitan Police dress code outlines the main principles, saying that dress should be smart, fit for purpose, and portray a favourable impression of the service, but makes no formal restrictions on beards. In May, images of a Met policeman sporting a well-groomed beard and waxed moustache went viral, with the officer labelled as the hipster cop. The officer was photographed while policing in Walthamstow, where members of the English Defence League clashed with anti-fascist protesters. And all they noticed was his silly moustache and beard. But where's it going, eh? This is the police again. Talk about overkill. This is the Mail Online. Police sent helicopter, armed officers and dog unit to a house after reports of a man brandishing a weapon, only to find it was a gardener with a rake. Stephen Hogan was working in his back garden with his friend Wayne Dodd. The pair were out late when police swooped on the house in Christchurch, Dorset. So you can't be out late with a garden rake. I guess they should have been in their bed getting a bit extra sleep. They were called by a nursing home staff member who thought she saw a weapon. In fact, Mr. Dodd had been using the garden rake to help landscape Mr. Hogan's garden. And that seems to be a criminal offence these days. Police launched a major hunt involving a helicopter, armed response officers and a dog unit for a man brandishing a weapon in the dark. But when they got there, the suspect was just a gardener holding a rake. Stephen Hogan had been working late in his back garden with friend Wayne Dodd when police swooped on their quiet neighbourhood in Christchurch, Dorset. They had earlier received a 999 call from a member of staff at the Avondine nursing home 2 doors down, who reported seeing a man in a t-shirt outside holding up what appeared to be a weapon. Officers attended Mr. Hogan's bungalow home at about midnight after their colleagues in the National Police Air Service helicopter circling above saw some activity in his back garden. After making their way through the property, the two policemen found Mr. Dodd holding up a rake from where he had been helping to landscape an unkempt area of Mr. Hogan's garden under an external light. Officers satisfied themselves that the so-called offender was 43-year-old Mr. Dodd and the weapon was the garden rake. Mr. Hogan said 5 police cars attended the incident, which included an armed response vehicle and a dog unit, as well as a helicopter, which cost several thousands of pounds to scramble. The bizarre incident happened at 11:40 p.m. on Friday night in the Stanpit area of Christchurch. Mr. Hogan, a 55-year-old plumber, had bought a new heavy roller to help with the garden project that evening, and he, his son Sean, 23, and Mr. Dodd helped put it together. Mr. Hogan said, all of a sudden there was a lot of commotion coming from out front. My wife Alison looked outside and saw about 5 police cars and armed officers and dogs. We could hear the police helicopter above us. Then 2 policemen approached the front door. They said there was someone with a weapon in the area. They asked to come into the back garden and asked if someone was out there because the eyes in the sky, as they called them, had seen someone. She said that there was, and if that was a problem. They came in and found Wayne with the rake and then left. He had been helping me flatten out some ground using the new roller and was using the rake by the time the police came. We weren't making a lot of noise. Well, they shouldn't have let these policemen in the house or the back garden. They should have told them to fuck off, basically, and mind their own business. They say, well, yeah, there is somebody in the back garden. They're doing a bit of gardening. Go away. Mr. Dodd said, I was rolling in an old part of the garden and saw the helicopter was up. By the time the 2 policemen came, I was raking over the ground and then they just left. Mr. Hogan said he was reassured that the police responded to a potentially serious incident so quickly, but questioned the resources they put into it. He said, we were more bemused than anything. It was reassuring that the police checked it out so thoroughly, but in the end they did all that just to see what was going on in our garden. Exactly. I think the sheer number of police and armed police made people in the neighbourhood think there was something more sinister to it. It didn't help that after leaving our house the police just packed up and left without telling the neighbours it was a false alarm. I'm not sure why they used a helicopter and went to that sort of expense when they are cutting back at the moment on police numbers. It doesn't make good practice. A spokesman for Dorset Police said at 11:41 p.m. on Friday we had a report of someone with a weapon, but it turned out to be someone who was doing some late night gardening using a rake. It was a misinterpretation of what the caller had seen. No, it's just getting you used to the fact that the police can just hover over your house in a helicopter and spy into your back garden at any time they want, then come knocking on your door with their guns and demand entry, basically. So get used to it. But I mentioned a couple of months ago, I think it was now, that some chief police officer had called for the army to help out police officers because they were so low in numbers. But here we go. That was just a nugget to put out there to see how people would react to it, and obviously not enough people did react to it, and this is what you get. Secret plans to deploy soldiers on UK streets in the aftermath of a terror attack are shocking and provocative, says Peer. Secret police plans, is that secret police or plans that are secret? I don't know. Secret police plans to deploy more than 5,000 armed soldiers on British streets in the wake of a UK terror attack have been questioned by a prominent peer as a provocative act that could potentially endanger the public. You don't say, yeah? What would happen if these troops had turned up to the guy with the rake? Do you think they'd have knocked on his front door? Accidentally leaked minutes from a meeting of the National Police Chiefs Council, the NPCC, published as David Cameron flew to Southeast Asia, planning to discuss ISIS with leaders in the region, said large-scale military support could augment armed police officers engaged in protective security duties. What does that mean? Based upon force assessments of how many military officers would be required, troops would be brought in to guard key targets and prevent further terror attacks, according to the Mail on Sunday, which saw the documents. Well, I think they're going about Tunisia and stuff and all these terror attacks abroad. Well, all those countries have already got troops in the street. So it doesn't help, does it? Especially when your own government's doing the bombing anyway. Codenamed Operation Tempera, the plans were revealed when documents from a 22nd April meeting of the National Police Chiefs Council were accidentally uploaded to their website. Yeah, sure, that was an accident. The minutes of the meeting were uploaded last Thursday afternoon and removed and revised early on Friday morning when it was identified that details from the closed session had been included, an NPCC spokesperson said, who won't give you their name, must be a secret. Baroness Jenny Jones, who sits on London's Police and Crime Committee, called the revelations absolutely shocking. Putting troops on the streets would be very controversial, she told The Independent. I think it would be very provocative and cause more problems than it would solve. Although plans certainly had to be made for the event of a terror attack. That's a strange way of wording something, as if she's expecting it. She was curious about whether troops were being trained to deal with members of the public, she said, adding that it would not be appropriate to use them if they had not been. Well, it doesn't matter if you train them to engage with the public. They're trained to kill. That's what they're trained to do. They're not trained to be police officers. If it reached a situation where military help was necessary, the government would have lost would have to have lost control, Baroness Jones said, adding that it would make them look weak and panicky. Something that would be this extraordinary, she said. I think the principle of this should be debated in Parliament, and a lot of good that'll do. Deputy Chief Constable Simon Chesterman, the National Lead for Armed Policing, briefed the other chief officers at the meeting, and discussions were ongoing with government, the minutes said, although they have never been debated in Parliament. Well, what does it matter? We live in a dictatorship, don't we? However, Raffaello Pantucci, Director of International Security Studies at the Royal United Services Institute think tank, said the plan was sensible. Well, of course they would. It's got Royal at the start of that. You really have to have contingency planning to prepare for potentially the worst, he said. If you had multiple sites, as they had in the Paris attacks, it is possible you would have overstretch. You would look to other options, and the army would be the most obvious port of call. Really. Last month, more than 1,000 police and soldiers, including SAS troops, staged a mass exercise codenamed Strong Tower to test their ability to respond to a gun attack on London, similar to the one that left 30 British tourist deaths dead in Tunisia on 26th of June. So, the secret plans are not secret, are they? If they're already doing it. They're already having an exercise with police and soldiers. And it said 1,000 police and soldiers. I mean, how many soldiers were there? Doesn't say, does it? But it just gets more and more ridiculous. I mean, this is a council officer, and I've got a little bit of audio here if I can get it to play. That this is in America, and this guy turns up at somebody's house to to complain about the smoke and the smell coming from somebody's barbecue. So I'm just going to play this bit of audio if I can get it to work, and we'll go through the story then.
Nobody on this street. Nobody on this street that's lived here for 40 years has ever complained.
I suggest what you should do if you believe your neighbor's harassing you. I think you can figure out yourself, contact somebody about that. I don't know. I'm only here because of the owner. I'm only here because of the smoke.
Well, I'm glad you got some pretty good evidence of affecting neighbors, because you don't see no smoke.
Well, I just took 3 pictures of smoke. While
But I got a question, sir. I got a question, sir.
Yeah, what can I do for you?
The people right next door cooked out last weekend to her.
Well, you didn't complain.
She didn't complain.
Well, I don't know.
So we across the street.
She may be upwind. It may be something else.
That's some horse shit.
See, there you go. I can smell it. I can smell it again right now. But I'm on your property. You're allowed to have smells on your property, so that doesn't count. Okay. But when I'm on the street,
oh my goodness!
So you can't smell barbecue smoke on the street.
I can smell barbecue smoke. I'm suggesting it right now.
Is that against the law?
The law says. Do you want to read it again?
Man, everybody around here cook out.
All I can tell you is if you want to call on your neighbors that you feel like you're being impacted by them, feel free. We will come and address it the exact same way as we do any other person who calls. So that's how it works.
Okay, so everybody can cook out except me. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Everybody in the whole world.
Tell you that
everybody in the whole world can cook out except me. That's what you're telling me. Because everybody else cooks out around here.
Well, we sure ain't gonna
Nobody
stop.
harasses them.
We sure ain't gonna stop.
I'm cooking out, and I barely have
fire department, ambulance, police, environmentalists.
That don't even, you know yourself that don't even say.
So there you go. You can't have a barbecue in your back garden in case the smoke or the smell goes on the street. I mean, it's farcical, isn't it? It's farcical. But what it is the way to stop people having a barbecue, basically. That's the start of it. Which, I mean, a barbecue, you're fairly self-sufficient with a barbecue. As long as you've got the fuel to burn on it, but I mean, you can burn wood in it if you need to. And you can cook anything on a barbecue, basically. Even stuff that's in pots, liquids, whatever. You can cook everything on a barbecue. But of course, they don't want you to, do they? They don't want you in any way self-sufficient. But here's the story anyway. I'm only here because of the smoke. Florida council official caught on camera telling resident the smoke from his barbecue cannot leave the property. A bizarre video has emerged out of Florida showing a man who says he is a council official telling a resident that the smoke from their barbecue is not allowed to leave the property. The video, which went viral over the weekend, shows a male resident arguing with the apparent official and not believing what he is being told. I'm only here because of the odour. I'm only here because of the smoke, the official says on the clip. The resident tells the official that it's only a barbecue and that most residents in the street cook out. The official alludes to the fact one of the man's neighbours had complained about the smell he was producing. Then the official says, frankly today I can smell it again right now, but I'm on your property. You're allowed to have it smell on your property, so that doesn't count, but when I'm on the street, that's when it counts. The official finished up by saying that the barbecue smoke, by a rule in force in Pinellas County, cannot cross their property line. Well, Pinellas County is the one right next door to us here. The Pinellas County website states in its environmental section, commercial barbecue cookers are not exempt from causing a nuisance odour. If a sufficient number of complaints representing different households are reported and an inspector witnesses the problem, they can issue a warning letter. The video has been viewed by over 500,000 people on YouTube since Sunday. It was posted by a man calling himself Scotty Jordan. It is unclear whether Jordan is the resident or the person filming. So, I mean, even the what they state is the law there. There was apparently only one person complained, so the guy shouldn't even been there in the first place. But it seems that the person complaining has just got a bit of smoke up their ass, basically, about nothing. I should mention that the guy who was having the barbecue was black, so maybe that's got something to do with it. Maybe his white neighbours didn't like him very much or something, and just racists. But here's somebody else doing some filming which people don't like. Voyeur uses drone to spy on nudists. Furious naked sunbathers say they were buzzed by radio-controlled aircraft that had a camera attached. The drone flew up and down the famous Studland nudist beach in Dorset, and sunbathers feared a camera was attached to the device which took shots. Officials are now looking into the matter and have stepped up patrols. Beach users have some privacy as it is obscured by sand dunes on one side with the sea on the other. Naturists on one of Britain's most popular nudist beaches fear they are being spied on by a voyeur flying a drone. A number of naked sunbathers were left angry when they were buzzed by a radio-controlled drone that flew up and down the famous Studland nudist beach in Dorset. They feared a camera was attached to the device and that the operator, who could not be seen, had the bare cheek to take some shots of the bathers in a state of complete undress. Well, it's a nudist beach, isn't it? I mean, if you're going to take your clothes off, why do you care? Why do you care? Don't you think the other people there with their clothes off are voyeurs as well? Don't you think? Officials are looking into the matter and have stepped up patrols in case the drone operator returns. A member of the Studland United Nudist Group said several naturists heard and saw a drone fly over with the naturist area, including families who are concerned that this new invasion of their privacy and a possible subsequent use of any photographic material that may have been taken. Well, you know, taking your young children on a nudist beach is not exactly recommended, I would suggest. The machine went along with the whole stretch of Studland so the owner could not be identified. For obvious reasons, naturists need to know who it was. No, they don't. Studland Nudist Beach is a public space, but the users enjoy some privacy as it is obscured by sand dunes on one side and has the sea on the other. Well, if it's a public space, there's nothing they can do about it. Absolutely nothing. And if they try and do something about this, that's just try to set a precedent for the use of drones, basically. Because I guess the cops and those kind of people are getting a bit worried that people have their own drones and can film them now. So you probably won't be allowed to fly a drone in a public space. That's probably what this is about. There are plenty of signs warning members of the public about naturists being seen on the approaches either side of the designated bathing area. But an overhead drone with a camera on board flying relatively low in the sky is a modern phenomenon the nudists did not expect to contend with. A spokesman for the National Trust, which owns the beach, said they were concerned about the drone allegations and insisted that any request for photography had to go through them first. Well, no, it doesn't. If it's a public space, it doesn't. It doesn't have to go through anybody. The public own public spaces. So the National Trust can, sing. John Bish from the Trust said the flying of drones over National Trust land is not allowed without permission, which was not sought or given on this occasion. Well, what if it's flying over the sea? Do the National Trust own the sea? I don't think so. We would ask anyone who witnesses an incident of this kind at Studland to speak to a beach ranger or contact us so that we can take action. What they're going to do is shoot it down. The National Trust insists requests to fly drones on their land are only approved with the operators accredited by the Civil Aviation Authority and has a CAA permission to undertake aerial work in the UK and sufficient insurance. So there you go. They're going to legislate everything to do with drones, so you won't be allowed to fly unless you pay stupid amounts of money to these cretins. Mr. Bish explained, we also require drone operators to identify themselves, use signage to make the public aware that filming is taking place, and to respect the privacy of our visitors. Well, it's a public place. It's a public place, and people are running about with no clothes on. What kind of privacy are they expecting? Eh? It's a farce, isn't it? It's a farce. But perverts, there's enough of them around. But this Baron Sewel, or Baron Sewer, I guess he should be called, because that seems to be where he spends most of his time. Time to derail this gravy train. Fury over the cost of freeloading as freeloading piers as size of the Lords edges towards 1,000. That's these fat cats who sit around doing nothing, and they're supposed to legislate on legislation basically and pass laws, but this is what they're really up to. This Baron Sewel, disgraced peer, says some are picking up £300 a day allowance for no work, but he's going to be allowed to do it even although he's quit. But he's still a lord, of course, but he still gets his £300 a day. Baron Sewel has admitted many members of the House of Lords do fuck all. That's his words, not mine, although I tend to agree with that. Married father of 4, caught on camera snorting white substance off a table, or cocaine. Now let's call it what it is. And the footage was taken during an apparent drug-fueled sex session with 2 prostitutes. It wouldn't be the first time a apologist had been caught with prostitutes snorting cocaine. I think George Osborne was one of them, wasn't he? Anger was mounting over Peer's expenses last night after disgraced Baron Sewel admitted many members of the House of Lords received money for doing fuck all. Well, so do most politicians, all of them. They do things, but certainly not for the public. Demands were growing for reform of the upper chamber and fresh allegations of widespread abuse by peers living high on the hog. Currently there are over 800 members of the House of Lords, but the number could soar to more than 1,000 if it continues at the current pace of growth. And of course most of those lordships, as they call them, or ladyships, are hereditary, and just hand them down to their family as they go, and they milk the taxpayer for thousands of pounds a year. It's already the second biggest legislature in the world after China's Politburo, which has 2,987 members. Concern over the bloated size of the House has intensified ahead of the forthcoming dissolution honours list, when David Cameron is set to appoint dozens of Tories to the Lords in an effort to push his policies through Parliament. So there you go. There's no safety net for bad laws, is there? You just put your own people in to pass them, and that's how it's done. And you reward them with a job that gives them 120 grand a year and £300 a day for turning up at it. Not bad, eh? Members who are not paid a salary can claim a taxpayer-funded daily allowance of £300 a day. But during a cocaine-fueled rant, Sewell said that this was routinely abused. Cocaine's an abuse, isn't it? He mistakenly says the perk is £200. Bleating about his financial difficulties, despite pocketing an annual salary of £84,525, he was filmed telling prostitutes, members of her lordship's house, who are right thieves, rogues and bastards, wonderful people that they are. The trouble with these fuckers, these fucking shits, this is what he said, who live in London and don't have to pay rent. They've already got a house in London. They get exactly the same, so it's free money to them. I mean the lawyers, the people in City, people like that, they're coming in, they do fuck all work in the Lords, they're picking up their £200, well it's actually 300. People like me who have to rent somewhere, I don't know. He added, I don't have to provide any receipts or anything for the 200. The fact I turn up means I get 200 a day. I could spend it on whatever I want to. I do spend it on wine and different things, like cocaine and prostitutes, Because of lax financial checks, the money is paid even if they do not actually do any work. And Cameron is cutting 12 billion off of welfare, off of poor people. And these shysters, these fucking scumbags, get £300 a day for doing fuck all, by their own admission. 800 of them. Sewell's comments could not have come at a more unhelpful time as the Prime Minister prepares to publish his dissolution honours list. He is expected to ennoble at least 35 new Conservatives amid fears he does not have enough support in the upper house to win battles on Europe and welfare. So just put your own people in, The names of the new peers were expected last week when Parliament broke up for its summer break, but the list has been put on the back burner amid whispers of a row over how many peers Mr Cameron should be allowed to create. Just pay your buddies. Just pay your buddies loads of money and let them do fuck all work. They call that democracy, 5 who brought shame on the House of Lords. Lord Hanningfield, former Tory frontbencher, jailed for 9 months in July 2011 for false accounting. Well, they're all doing false accounting. In 2014 he was kicked out of Parliament for a year after claiming the £300 attendance rate while spending as little as 21 minutes in Westminster. Lord Taylor of Warwick, jailed for a year in 2011 for falsely claiming more than 11,000 in expenses. Well, that's false accounting, isn't it? Claimed for travel from a residence in Oxford while actually living in Ealing, West London. Lord Archer, millionaire Tory peer, fell from grace when he was jailed for 4 years for perjury in 2001. He was found to have lied under oath during a libel case against the Daily Star in 1987. Yeah, he lied and said he didn't give a big brown envelope to a prostitute on a railway platform. He's a multi-millionaire and he's still got to do things like this. Baroness Uden, Britain's first female Muslim peer, was booted out of the Lords for 18 months in 2010 in order to repay £125,000 after claiming she lived in Kent. She actually lived in East London. So she was claiming expenses, of course. Lord Paul, Labour peer and one of the country's richest men, suspended from the Lords for 4 months in 2010 and repaid £38,000. He's one of the country's richest men. £38,000, probably a couple of nights in a hotel for him, and some cocaine and prostitutes, after admitting he never spent a single night at an Oxfordshire flat that was registered as his main home. He is likely to give peerages. This is Cameron. He is likely to give peerages to loyal politicians including David Willetts and William Hague, as well as controversially ennobling placemen who helped run Downing Street and push the Tories over the winning line in the election. This would create a large Conservative voting bloc to pass more of the party's policies through the Lords. So there you go. It's just a dictatorship, isn't it? The list of new peers from all parties would take the size of the Lords up to around 840. Under House of Lords rules, peers only have to sign in personally at Westminster to get their hands on the £300 a day allowance. I bet they all sign in for each other. But guaranteed. If they even sign in at all. Doesn't matter, they get their money. However, there have been a series of embarrassments over recent years when members of the House were found to be claiming the allowance for only the briefest visits to Westminster or incorrectly claiming for housing. Last night, Andy Sylvester, campaigns director for the Taxpayers Alliance pressure group, said, "We have to have proper checks and balances to ensure that everybody claiming a daily allowance is working for it, and the parliamentary authorities must take a more active role in reminding peers of their responsibilities when claiming." Well, the House of Lords, it's supposed to be a check and balance on the government. But when the government can appoint its own people to fill it and pass their bills, it's nothing. It's garbage, isn't it? But of course, this is probably a way to try and get rid of the Lords in some time in the future and just do away with it for all the use it is. I mean, what is it? It's just a big gravy train, as this cretin said himself. But again, what checks and balances will there be when that's gone? None whatsoever. And these psychopaths will just get away with murder, literally, if they want to. Taxpayers will be keeping a close eye on the second chamber. Yeah, sure they will. It's crucial that it keeps the government honest. Since when was a government honest, ever? Eh? But there will come a point when the sheer size of the House makes that difficult. A parliamentary source told the Daily Mail, Sewell's comments will simply add to the feeling that too many members of the House of Lords are on the gravy train and playing fast and loose with taxpayer-funded perks, and that it is time to stop it in its tracks. Yep. Well, Sewell doesn't think so. $120,000 a year, but still he moans about paying rent. Disgraced Lord Sewell claims bumper salary and expenses package is not enough to fund his expensive tastes and extravagant social life. His prostitutes and his cocaine, I guess. Lord Sewell is paid more than £120,000 a year, but still moans about his rent. Bumper salary and expenses are not enough to fund his extravagant social life. In the footage showing him snorting cocaine, he bemoans paying £1,000 rent. What, a month? £1,000 a month? There's working families paying more than that. As a man responsible for upholding standards in the House of Lords, John Butterfant Sewell is paid more than £120,000 a year. Yeah, you heard right. He's the guy who's responsible for upholding standards. But the bumper salary and expenses package received by the peer is apparently still not enough to fund his expensive taste and extravagant social life. In the secretly recorded footage, the 69-year-old peer can be heard moaning about his financial difficulties in between snorting lines of cocaine in the company of the two £200 a night call girls. Well, it only cost him, a night and a half to get that money together on his expenses. He tells the two women how he struggles to pay the £1,000 a month rent on the Dolphin Square flat where he hosted his sex party, in spite of receiving a generous taxpayer-funded allowance from the Lords. Yet the taxpayer pays for his cocaine and prostitutes, eh? As chairman of committees in the Lords, Sewell is paid a salary of £84,525 for the part-time work. Not bad, eh? On top of that, as he lives outside London, he claims £36,000 a year to maintain a home in London. Not bad, eh? If only you and I could do that. Just claim, oh well, I've got another house up the road. Can I just claim tax exemption for that? And you can pay me for it as well. And despite his complaints about the £1,000 rent of his Dolphin Square flat, it comes with a protected rate which dramatically reduces what he has to pay. So it's not £1,000, eh? A similar flat in Dolphin Square costs almost £3,000 per month to rent. How does he get away with that? Speaking to the women about the daily attendance allowance of £300 while opening a packet of white powder, Sewell mistakenly moans that it is £200 a day. He says, I know it sounds incredible, I know. One of the women asks, seemingly bemused at the amount, £200 a day? £200 a day to buy lunch? Sewell replies, it's not lunch, lovey darling, it's paying for this. He's cocaine and he's prostitutes. But hey, it's okay for them. Those lords and politicians and big corporate people and everything, they can avoid their tax and get away with it. But hey, don't dare try to sell something on eBay, whatever you do. eBay sellers to be targeted in HMRC online tax crackdown. Her Majesty's Revenue Commission, The Queen just needs more money from you, the peasant. But not from the Lords, of course, because they serve her. Users of eBay and other online sales sites are facing a tax crackdown following government plans to obtain data on millions of internet transactions. So see, it's not just about eBay. They're going to have your data. Everything about you. Like they've not already got it, of course. But they want more. HM Revenue and Customs, HM Revenue Customs Revenue Commissioner, same thing I guess, wants to collect information from internet companies such as PayPal that would allow it to identify British users who have an income from online sales. I guess that includes rent abroad, does it? That would include Apple and Google app stores sales and money made by renting out rooms or property through sites like Airbnb. The planned powers will allow the taxman to collect names, addresses and revenues of businesses using the websites. According to a report on the Telegraph website which quotes senior tax accountants, this will be a huge collection of data by HMRC and require a correspondingly large upgrade to HMRC databases, as well as posing potential security and privacy risks. Well, now, of course, who's going to pay for the upgrade to the HMRC database? The taxpayer. HMRC gained new powers in 2013 that allowed it to access credit and debit card data, but it's so far been unable to access data from the likes of PayPal, which is owned by eBay and is used by more than 20 million people in the UK. Well, they'll get it. Users of online platforms like eBay who resell items on an infrequent basis are on the whole unlikely being considered as traders, but tax is due on profits made online in the same way it is for other income. It is thought that billions of pounds in tax is lost each year through unreported online income. According to HMRC, the new powers will allow it to raise £860 million over the next 5 years. Yeah, sure. Why don't they just go after these fat cats snorting cocaine and prostitutes? And why hasn't Sewel been arrested and asked where he got his cocaine? Why has he been arrested on drug charges? Why hasn't he been arrested for soliciting prostitutes? No, he gets to keep his place in the House of Lords and his £300 a day allowance. And his salary, no doubt. But God forbid you sell old toys on eBay. Oh no, you'll be tasered. If you don't pay your taxes. Ah dear. Get back to Florida. For-profit juvenile detention facility, a disgrace to Florida, says grand jury. And guess who's involved, Jurors say Florida institution operated by controversial G4S security firm is behind the London Olympics is dilapidated and unsanitary while staff are undertrained. G4S, the controversial British outsourcing firm behind the disastrous security provision at the London Olympics, has been accused of running a disgraceful juvenile detention centre in Florida. I wonder what else goes on there, The Highlands Youth Academy, HYA, in Avon Park, a facility for young men aged 16 to 19, that was the site of a riot involving more than 130 children 2 years ago, was described as a disgrace to the state of Florida by a grand jury report that called for it to be closed down. The excoriating 21-page report, unsealed last week, details a string of criticisms, including dilapidated buildings, unclean sanitary facilities, undertrained and poorly equipped staff, and failure to report incidents of children escaping. What we have discovered at the Highlands Youth Academy simply cannot be what our legislature and state leaders have intended for our juvenile justice system, the jurors wrote. While the citizens are essentially being ripped off, the juveniles are being even more poorly served. The Highlands Youth Academy should cease to exist. G4S, which is set to make a $4 million profit from the facility over 5 years and runs 28 other juvenile detention centres in the state, that's just in Florida, said the grand jury's report contained multiple factual errors and misstatements. Of course he would say that. Photos released to The Guardian by the State Attorney's Office reveal living quarters described by the grand jury as disgraceful, bedrooms with exposed plywood walls where children slept on steel bunk beds, and bathrooms with unpainted plaster and more plywood with peeling and dilapidated fixtures and fittings. The grand jury said that some of the facility's buildings had roof and water damage caused by hurricanes in 2004 that had never been repaired. G4S said that the bunk beds had since been replaced and that a campus-wide renovation plan had begun in April 2015. It insisted that the roofs of buildings affected by the 2004 hurricanes had been replaced, only because they got caught. The investigation also revealed that G4S operated a statewide policy of forbidding staff from contacting police on company time if they were the victims of assault by any of the children housed on site. We learned that it is a felony to batter a detention care worker, the grand jurors wrote, but the facility administrator at HYA and those at other G4S facilities require staff to finish their shift and leave work before they can call law enforcement to report being the victim of violent or sexually based crime. Well, what if they're beaten black and blue? Supposed to finish their shift? Or what? They don't get paid? G4S internal policies discourage contacting law enforcement when crimes occur at their facilities, particularly when offenders batter staff. G4S policy is that such should be dealt with by the facility staff. G4S management, so they're their own private police force. That's what they're telling you there. It's not a criminal offence inside their property. They'll deal with it. G4S management does not understand that battery on a worker in a residential facility is a felony, and is not aware that policies discouraging reporting are being interpreted literally at the staff level on the compounds of G4S facilities, and in practice function as directives not to involve law enforcement at all when a crime occurs. Well, I would have thought that's a crime in itself. Banning you from calling police when you've been assaulted. You're supposed to report a crime. I think there's a law that you've got to report a crime in some places. G4S said the policy banning staff from reporting crimes on company time had been the result of state guidelines and had since been cancelled. In 2012, G4S made international news after failing to provide enough security guards at the London Olympics. The British military had to deploy thousands of personnel to fill the gap. And what happened? Nothing. They're all scared about terrorism. But going back to what I said about the secret plans for the troops in the streets, well, they're just getting used to it. The grand jury investigation comes just 2 months after the British Child Services Agency uncovered a series of incidents of gross misconduct by staff, some of whom were on drugs while on duty at a G4S facility for children in Northampton. The damning report into Rainsbrook, one of 3 secure training centres run by G4S in the UK, found that staff had failed to contact outside agencies after serious incidents, and that data provided by the centre to inspectors during the inspection regarding the number of fights, assaults and injuries was inaccurate. In one case, a child who suffered a fracture was not provided with medical treatment for 15 hours. In a statement published on Friday, G4S said that while it was working hard to address the concerns raised by the Ofsted report into Rainsbrook, it had been assured by regulators that the centre is not and was never an unsafe place. Really? Tell that to the kid who's got a fractured arm or leg or whatever it was, and sitting in pain for 15 hours. Tell him it's safe. Eh? But G4S, I mean, they still keep getting contracts, don't they? Doesn't matter how much they fuck up, they still keep getting contracts. Because they're well connected. And they're going to be part of your private military on the street, I guess, at some point. But that leads us on to Ben Fellows. Now, this Ben Fellows story, as reported by UK Column, etc., many years ago, has gone on and on and on. And, of course, there's no chance of it ever getting to court because it's all public now, and Ken Clarke won't get a fair trial. Poor guy, you know. But here he is today. Ken Clarke, groping claim is so preposterous it's off the Richter scale. The former Chancellor, 75, brands accuser a fantasist as a 40-year-old is put on trial for perverting the course of justice. Ken Clarke, the Conservative MP, has denied ever meeting a former child actor who accused him of groping him when he was a teenager, describing the allegation as so preposterous it was off the Richter scale. Excuse me. The former Chancellor, 75, was called to give evidence at the trial of former child actor Ben Fellows, who stands accused of perverting the course of justice after telling police that he had been groped by the politician. He told the Old Bailey that his response on first hearing about the allegation was rather like Martians landing. What is this all about? He branded his accuser a fantasist and told the jury it was all a complete mystery to me as to why this guy was singling me out. I've never heard of Ben Fellows. As far as I'm aware, I've never met him. This is the first time I've seen him. Mr. Clarke, appearing in public for what was believed to be the first time since the death of his wife Gillian 2 weeks ago, added, I never felt any compulsion in my life to grope another man. The MP appeared frail as he stepped up into the witness box, but gave a characteristically confident and impassioned denial of the allegations, even raising the odd laugh from the court. Excuse me again. Asked his full name and occupation, he declared, Kenneth Henry Clarke. I am a Member of Parliament for 45 years. Fellows, 40, from Solihull, West Midlands, claims that Mr. Clarke plied him with alcohol before touching his private parts in 1994 when he was 19. He told the jury that the MP then invited him to a party in Dolphin Square, Westminster. Oh, funny that, eh? Dolphin Square. We're back to Sewell's area where he's got his flat, where he has cocaine and prostitutes. Must be a coincidence, I guess. At the time of the alleged assault, he claims he was working undercover for ITV's current affairs programme, The Cook Report, during a Cash for Questions sting operation against Ian Greer, the political lobbyist, and that the assault took place in Mr Greer's office. But Mr Clarke said he did not think he had ever met Mr Greer and did not know him from Adam. He said he first became aware of the bizarre allegations when his son saw the story online. It upset my son, it upset me too. Apparently, while Chancellor of the Exchequer, I was hanging around the office of Ian Greer and groped a man. It's quite a detailed allegation, the time, the place, etc. He said the staff had made attempts to get it taken off the internet, but it was hopeless as the story just kept repeating. The MP, who is also a QC, apologised when the judge reminded him to pause during his evidence, explaining, "Sometimes I forget I am in court and slip into old habits." Mr Clarke laughed off the suggestion that as Chancellor he would have had time to go strolling off into someone's office on a Thursday afternoon. Well, what else is he doing? What else is he doing? That's about a gap. We've already heard that Sewel telling them, these guys do fuck all, so what was he doing? I'm sure he's got plenty of time to stroll off into somebody's office. He's in offices all day, isn't he? Asked about a gap in his diary on the day the alleged assault took place, he said, "The office work of being Chancellor of the Exchequer takes rather more than 3 hours a day. It's a pretty workaholic existence. It was all absorbing." He said he had not sought an injunction against fellows because it would have turned the whole thing into a circus, but he agreed to give evidence at the criminal trial because despite the embarrassment he thought it appropriate. "I was being pursued by a fantasist attempting to get some notoriety," he added. "I think I was chosen because I was a B-list celebrity at the time." He's a politician, but he's a celebrity, eh? That's how they think of themselves. Fellows told national newspapers about alleged assault in 2012, claiming that he had been motivated by the BBC's response to the Jimmy Savile scandal. He said he had not initially wanted to give a police statement because he had not been particularly bothered by the incident and did not want to go up against Ken Clarke. He eventually gave a statement after being interviewed by officers as part of Operation Fairbank, the high-profile investigation into historical child sex abuse at Westminster. But officers later concluded that he was lying and began treating him as a suspect rather than a victim. Roger Cook, who presented the Cook Report, told the court last week that he had never heard of Fellows. The trial continues. I wonder who got to Roger Cook. Anyway, we'll call it a day at that, and back on Thursday with more news and views. I'm going to line up some guests in the near future, so a bit of variety coming up. Okay, thanks for listening. Cheers.
No lizards, no aliens, no nonsense. This is Reality Bytes.